to the Trading Post. It's me, Fred, and of course the star of the show. Here we go. Good old Noodle. Tell him hi, Noodle. Tell him hi, buddy. See everybody? Yeah. He's a good boy. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and do Fred Files episode 6. And this is the mystery of Saint Germain. Fred Files episode 6, the mystery of Saint Germain. Alright, I'm back, everybody. As I said prior to this is Fred Files episode 6, the mystery of Count Saint Germain. Alright, now let's get into this, guys. There's a lot on here. Okay, this is going to be probably a longer one. There's a lot of information, a lot of theories and stuff. But anyways, let's get into it, alright? I hope you guys are ready to go. The Count of Saint Germain, or in French, Comte de Saint Germain, circa 1691 or 1712 to 1727 to February 1784, was a European high society of the mid-18th century due to his interest and achievements in science, alchemy, philosophy, and the arts. Saint Germain used a variety of names and titles, including the Marquis de Montferrat, Comte de Bellemare, Chevalier Schoening, and Count Weldon, Comte Soltikoff, Manuel Doria, Graf Zerogi, and Prince Rogozzi. While his real name is unknown and his birth and background obscure, towards the end of his life he claimed that he was a son of Prince Francis II Rákóczi of Transylvania. He is said to have made far-fetched claims such as being 500 years old, leading Voltaire to dub him the Wonder Man, and that he is a man who does not die and who knows everything. Okay. Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel is recorded as having called him one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived. He associated himself with some of the top figures of the day, including Casanova, Voltaire, and Mozart. Now, here's a little bit of background about Mr. Germain. The Count claimed to be a son of Francis II Rákóczi, as said prior, the Prince of Transylvania, which could possibly be unfounded. However, this would account for his wealth and fine education. The will of Francis II Rákóczi mentions his eldest son, Leopold George, who was believed to have died at the age of 4. The speculation is that his identity was safeguarded as a protective measure against the persecutions of the Habsburg dynasty. At the time of his arrival in Schleswig in 1779, Saint Germain told Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel that he was 88 years old. This would place his birth in 1691 when Francis II Rákóczi was only 15 years old. Okay, well, that's a little funky. Whatever. But I guess back then, even back then, like, they still had kids at 15, 16 years old if he was a prince. So we can't really... Let's move forward. That's just another footnote there for you guys. Saint Germain was supposedly educated in Italy by the last of the Medicis, Gian Gaston, his alleged mother's brother-in-law. He was believed to be a student at the University of Siena. Okay, throughout his adult life, he deliberately spun a confusing web to conceal his actual name and origins, using different pseudonyms in the different places of Europe that he visited. The Marquis de Crequy declared that Saint Germain was an Alsatian Jew, Simon Wolf by name, and was born at Strasbourg about the close of the 17th or the beginning of the 18th century. Others insist that he was a Spanish Jesuit named Aymar, and others again intimate that his true title was the Marquis de Betmar, and that he was a native of Portugal. The most plausible theory, however, makes him the natural son of an Italian princess and fixes his birth at San Germano in Savoy about the year 1710. Excuse me. His ostensible father being one Rotundo, a tax collector of that district. He appears to have begun to be known under the title of Count Saint Germain during the early 1740s. That's interesting. Okay, now we're going to go into different areas of where he was at in the history and some of the accounts and stuff like that. So we're going to go to England, all right? According to David Hunter, the Count contributed some of the songs to L'Incostanza de Lusa, an opera performed at the Haymarket Theatre in London on all but one of the Saturdays from February 9th to April 20th, 1745. Okay. Later, in a letter of December of that same year, Horace Walpole mentions Count Saint Germain as being arrested in London on suspicion of espionage. This was during the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745. Okay, but he was released without charge. The other day, and now this is I believe this is Horace Walpole's statement. Okay, he says, the other day they seized an odd man who goes by the name of Count Saint Germain. He has been here these 2 years and will not tell who he is or whence, but professes two wonderful things. First, that he does not go by his right name, and the second, that he never had any dealings with any woman, nay, nor with any Sicilian, which is a substitute. He sings, plays on the violin wonderfully, composes, is mad, and not very sensible. He is called an Italian, a Spaniard, a Pole, somebody that married a great fortune in Mexico and ran away with her jewels to Constantinople, a priest, a fiddler, a vast nobleman, the Prince of Wales, has had an unsatiated curiosity about him, but in vain. However, nothing has been made out against him. He is released, and what convinces me that he is not a gentleman stays here, and talks of his being taken up for a spy. The Count gave 2 private musical performances in London. Okay, that was the end of his statement. The Count, the Count gave 2 private musical performances in London in April and May of 1749. On one such occasion, Lady Jemima York described how she was very much entertained by him, or at him the whole time. I mean, the oddness of his manner, which it is impossible not to laugh at. Otherwise, you know he is very sensible and well-bred in conversation. She continued, he is an odd creature, and the more I see him, the more curious I am to know something about him. He is everything with everybody. He talks ingeniously with Mr. Ray, philosophy, with Lord Willoughby, and is gallant with Miss York, Miss Carpenter, and all the young ladies. But the character and philosopher is what he seems to pretend to, and to be a good deal conceited of. The others are put on to comply with les manières du monde, but that you are to suppose his real characteristic. And I can't but fancy he is a great pretender in all kinds of science, as well as that he really has acquired an uncommon share in some. Walpole, now this is Walpole's statement again, he reports that Saint Germain spoke Italian and French with the greatest facility, though it was evident that neither was his language. He understood Polish and soon learnt to understand English and talk it a little, but Spanish or Portuguese seemed his natural language. Walpole concludes that the Count was a man of quality who had been in or designed for the church. He was too great a musician not to have been famous if he had not been a gentleman. Walpole describes the Count as pale, with extremely black hair and a beard. He dressed magnificently and had several jewels and was clearly receiving large remittances, but made no other figure. Now, we're going to go on to France. Okay, give me 1 second here. All right, you guys. France. Saint Germain appeared in the French court around 1748. In 1749, he was employed by Louis XV. I'm trying to think. That's, what is that? 15th. Louis the 15th for diplomatic missions. A mime and English comedian known as Milord Gower impersonated Saint Germain in Paris salons. His stories were wilder than the real counts. He had advised Jesus, for example. Inevitably, hearsay of his routine got confused with the original. Okay? Which, that makes sense. Some people could have mixed up. Now, Giacomo Casanova describes in his memoirs several meetings with the celebrated and learned impostor. Of his first meeting in Paris in 1757, he writes, "The most enjoyable dinner I had was with Madame de Robert Gergy, who came with the famous adventurer known by the name of the Count de Saint Germain. This individual, instead of eating, talked from the beginning of the meal to the end, and I followed his example in one respect, as I did not eat, but listened to him with the greatest attention. It may safely be said that as a conversationalist, he was unequaled. Saint Germain gave himself out for a marvel and always aimed at exciting amazement, which he often succeeded in doing. He was a scholar, linguist, musician, and chemist, good-looking, and a perfect ladies' man. For a while, he gave them paints and cosmetics. He flattered them, not that he would make them young again, which he modestly confessed was beyond him, but that their beauty would be preserved by means of a wash which he said cost him a lot of money, but which he gave away freely. He had contrived to gain the favor of Madame de Pompadour, who had spoken about him to the king, for whom he had made a laboratory in which the monarch, a martyr to boredom, tried to find a little pleasure or distraction, at all events by making dyes. The king had given him a suite of rooms at Chambord and 100,000 francs for the construction of a laboratory, and according to Saint Germain, the dyes discovered by the king would have a materially beneficial influence on the quality of French fabrics. This extraordinary man, intended by nature to be the king of impostors and quacks, would say in an easy, assured manner that he was 300 years old, that he knew the secret of the universal medicine, that he possessed a mastery over nature, that he could melt diamonds, professing himself capable of forming out of 10 or 12 small diamonds one large one of the finest water without any loss of weight. All this, he said, was a mere trifle to him. Notwithstanding his boastings, his barefaced lies, and his manifold eccentricities, I cannot say I thought him offensive. In spite of my knowledge of what he was, and in spite of my own feelings, I thought him an astounding man, as he was always astonishing me. Now, we're going to go to the Dutch Republic, y'all. Okay, you ready to go? In March 1760, at the height of the 7 Years' War, Saint Germain traveled to The Hague. In Amsterdam, he stayed at the bankers Adrian and Thomas Hope and pretended he came to borrow money from Louis XV with diamonds as collateral. He assisted Bertrand Philip, Count of Gronsveld, starting a porcelain factory in Weesp as a furnace and color specialist. Saint Germain tried to open peace negotiations between Britain and France with the help of Duke Louis Ernest of Brunswick-Luneburg. British diplomats concluded that Saint Germain had the backing of the Duke de Belleisle and possibly of Madame Pompadour, who were trying to outmaneuver the French foreign minister, the pro-Austrian Duc de Choiseul. However, Britain would not treat with Saint Germain unless his credentials came directly from the French king. The Duc de Choiseul convinced Louis XV to disavow Saint Germain and demand his arrest. Count Bentinck de Roon, a Dutch diplomat, regarded the arrest warrant as internal French politicking in which Holland should not involve itself. However, a direct refusal to extradite Saint Germain was also considered impolitic. De Roon therefore facilitated the departure of Saint Germain to England with a passport issued by the British ambassador, General Joseph Yorke. This passport was made out in blank, allowing Saint Germain to travel in May of 1760 from Helvoetsluis to London under an assumed name, showing that this practice was officially accepted at the time. From St. Petersburg, Saint Germain traveled to Berlin, Vienna, Milan, Übungen, and Zutphen in June of 1762, Amsterdam, August of 1762, Venice of 1769, Livorno of 1770, and Nuremberg in 1772, Mantua in 1773, and The Hague in 1774, and Bad Schwalbach. His death, now we're going to talk about his death. In 1779, Saint Germain arrived in Altona in Schleswig, where he made an acquaintance with Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel, who also had an interest in mysticism and was a member of several secret societies. The Count showed the prince several of his gems, and he convinced the latter that he had invented a new method of coloring cloth. The prince was impressed and installed the Count in an abandoned factory at Eckernford he had acquired especially for the Count, and supplied him with the materials and cloths that Saint Germain needed to proceed with the project. The two met frequently in the following years, and the prince outfitted a laboratory for alchemical experiments in his nearby summer residence, Louisenlund, where they, among other things, cooperated in creating gemstones and jewelry. The prince later recounts in a letter that he was the only person in whom the Count truly confided. He told the prince that he was the son of the Transylvanian Prince Francis II Rákóczi, and that he had been 88 years of age when he arrived in Schleswig. The Count died in his residence in the factory on February 27, 1784, while the prince was staying in Kassel, and the death was recorded in the register of the St. Nikolai Church in Eckernford. He was buried March 2nd, 1784, and the cost of the burial was listed in the accounting books of the church the following day. The official burial site for the Count is at Nikolai Church in Eckernford. He was buried in a private grave. On April 3rd, the same year, the mayor and the city council of Eckernford issued an official proclamation about the auctioning off of the Count's remaining effects in case no living relative would appear within a designated time period to lay claim on them. Prince Charles donated the factory to the crown, and it was afterward converted into a hospital. Jean Overton Fuller found during her research that the Count's estate upon his death was a packet of paid and receipted bills and quittances, 82 Reichenstallers and 13 shillings, 29 various groups of items of clothing, 14 linen shirts, 8 other groups of linen items, and various sundries. No diamonds, jewels, gold, or any other riches were listed, nor were kept cultural items from travels, personal items, or any notes of correspondence. So he really pretty much didn't have anything when he died. You know, he was penniless. He was broke. Okay, so now here I'm going to go through some of the music by the Count, and you can look this stuff up. There's more than this. I'm just going to give you I'm going to give you an example of each. Okay. Now he did supposedly he did trio sonatas, and this is for 2 violins with a bass for harpsichord or violoncello. There are 6 of these. Okay, there's 6 of these trio sonatas. But here's an example. You got one of them. Op. 47, in F major, 4/4 molto adagio. Okay? Now, you got violin solos. Now, there are 7 of those. But here's an example. Op. 53, I, which is B flat major, 4/4 largo. He also did English songs. Now, there's 4 of those, but there's one example I'll give you. Is Op. 4, The Maid That's Made for Love and Me. Oh, wouldst thou know what sacred charms? In E flat major, which is marked B flat major, 3/4. Okay? He also did Italian arias. There are 42 of these. But here's an example. Op. 1, 4 pp 16 to 20, Senza pieta mi credi. In G major, 6/8, marked as 3/8, but there are 6 quavers to the bar. Now, literature by the Count. We're going to jump into that. Discounting the snippets of political intrigue, a few musical pieces, and 1 mystical poem, there are only 2 pieces of writing attributed to the Count. Lettre Saint Germain and the untitled The Triangular Book of Saint Germain, or the Triangular Manuscript. Pardon me. Now, the first book attributed to the Count of Saint Germain is Lettre Saint Germain, a beautifully illustrated 18th century manuscript that describes in symbolic terms a journey of spiritual initiation or an alchemical process, depending on the interpretation. This book has been published several times, most notably by Manly P. Hall in Los Angeles, California in 1933. The attribution to Saint Germain rests on a handwritten note scrawled inside the cover of the original manuscript, stating that this was a copy of a text once in Saint Germain's possession. However, despite Hall's elaborate introduction describing the Count's legend, the Most Holy Trinisophia shows no definitive connection to him, which that's the name of that guy's book. Okay? Now, the second work attributed to Saint Germain is the untitled 18th century manuscript in the shape of a triangle. The 2 known copies of the triangular manuscript exist as Hogarth Manuscript 209 and 210. And this is a note, MS 209 and MS 210. Both currently reside in the Manly Palmer Hall collection of alchemical manuscripts at the Getty Research Library. Now, Nick Koss decoded and translated this manuscript in 2011, and it was published as the Triangular Book of Saint Germain by Ouroboros Press in 2015. Unlike the first work, it mentions Saint Germain directly as its originator. The book describes a magical ritual by which one can perform the 2 most extraordinary feats that characterized the legend of the Count of Saint Germain, namely procurement of great wealth and extension of life. Now, books claimed by Guy Ballard to have been dictated to him by Saint Germain. Now, Saint Germain is the central figure in a series of books published by the Saint Germain Press. The first two volumes, Unveiled Mysteries and the Magic Presence, written by Guy Ballard as Godfrey Ray King, describe Saint Germain as an ascended master, like Jesus, who is assisting humanity. In these two books, Ballard discusses his personal experiences with Saint Germain and reveals many teachings that are in harmony with theosophy. The third volume, the I Am Discourses, contains material that is foundational to the sacred scriptures of the I Am religious activity founded in 1930, the first of the Ascended Master teachings religions. There are 20 volumes in the Saint Germain series of books, also known as the Green Books. Claimed encounters with Saint Germain. We're going to jump into that now, you guys. Several theosophists and practitioners of alternate esoteric traditions have claimed to have met Saint Germain in the late 19th or early 20th centuries. Now, number one, Annie Besant said that she met the Count in 1896. That's all I got on that one. Now, C.W. Ledbetter claimed to have met him in Rome in 1926 and gave a physical description of him as having brown eyes, olive-colored skin, and a pointed beard. According to Ledbetter, the splendor of his presence impels men to make obeisance. Ledbetter said that Saint Germain showed him a robe that had been previously owned by a Roman emperor, and that Saint Germain told him that one of his residences was a castle in Transylvania. According to Ledbetter, when performing magic rituals in his castle in Transylvania, Saint Germain wears a suit of golden chainmail which once belonged to a Roman emperor. Over it is thrown a magnificent cloak of Tyrian purple, with on its clasp a 7-pointed star in diamond and amethyst, and sometimes he wears a glorious robe of violet. Now, encounter number 3, David Christopher Lewis. He's a living spiritual teacher. He claims that Saint Germain first came to him in person on June 10th, 2004, in his home in Paradise Valley, Montana, and continued to come many times after. That's all I got on that. Now, David Narozny, he's a living Czech music composer. He claims to have met Saint Germain in Prohonis on May 23rd, 2014. That's all I got on that. Now, Dorothy Leon, she's a living author, has claimed to have had several encounters with Saint Germain and is an avowed disciple of his as well. Now, the next one, number 6, will be Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, was asked while in trance if Saint Germain was present. Cayce's reply was, when needed. On February 14th, 1935, he stated that. Now, next one is Guy Ballard, founder of the I Am activity, claimed that he met Saint Germain on Mount Shasta in California in August of 1930, and that this initiated his training and experiences with other ascended masters in various parts of the world. Okay, and the next one is 8, Miroslav Zimmer. He was a living poet, and he claimed to have met Saint Germain in the Mala Fatra Mountains in Slovakia in 2011 in the company of a man named Sam Bennett. Now, the last one I got is Peter in Mount Shasta. He was a living spiritual teacher and author, and claims that Saint Germain materialized before him in Muir Woods in Marin County, California, as well as many other times, some of which encounters he documents in his book, which I don't know what his book was. I'll have to look that up. Y'all can look it up if you want. Now, esoteric activities. Let's get into that. Many groups honor Saint Germain as a supernatural being called a master of the ancient wisdom or an ascended master. In the ascended master teachings, he is referred to simply as Saint Germain or as the ascended master Saint Germain. As an ascended master, Saint Germain is believed to have many magical powers, such as the ability to teleport, levitate, walk through walls, and to inspire people by telepathy, among others. The Theosophical Society, after Blavatsky's death, considered him to be a Mahatma, master of ancient wisdom, or adept. Helena Blavatsky said that he was one of her masters of wisdom and hinted that he had given her secret documents. Some esoteric groups credit him with inspiring the Founding Fathers to draft the United States Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as well as providing the design of the Great Seal of the United States. Now, we're going to talk about his previous incarnations, okay? Now, according to the Theosophical Society and the Ascended Master teachings, Saint Germain was incarnated as the following. Number one, the ruler of a Golden Age civilization centered in a city called the City of the Sun, 70,000 years ago, located in the then lush and verdant area that is now the Sahara Desert. Originally, a colony sent out from Atlantis. Now, another one is, he was high priest in the civilization of Atlantis 13,000 years ago, serving in the order of Lord Zadkiel in the Temple of Purification, located in an Atlantean colony that had been sent out from the main island of Atlantis that had been established on the island now called Cuba. Now, another one is Samuel, 11th century BC religious leader in Israel who served as prophet, priest, and last of the Hebrew judges. They also claim that he was reincarnated as Hesiod, the Greek poet whose writings serve as a major source of insight into Greek mythology and cosmology circa 700 BC. They also claim that he was Plato, the philosopher who studied with students of Pythagoras and scholars in Egypt. He established his own school of philosophy at the Academy in Athens, circa 427 to 347 BC. Okay, Saint Joseph, 1st century AD, Nazareth, husband of Mary and guardian of Jesus. They also claim he was Saint Alban, late 3rd or early 4th century, town of Verulamium, renamed St. Albans, Hertfordshire, England. First British martyr, he had sheltered a fugitive priest, became a devout convert, and was put to death for disguising himself as the priest so that he could die in his place. They also claim that, and this I've heard as well, is even he himself had claimed at one point that he is Cartophilus, the wandering Jew, which was cursed. He was cursed by Jesus with immortality. Okay, I got to look more of that up, but that was one of them as well. Now, here's another one. Proculus, circa 410 to 485 AD in Athens, the last major Greek Neoplatonic philosopher. He headed the Platonic Academy and wrote extensively on philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, and grammar. And then, now another one, they claim that he was actually Merlin, the mythical magician and counselor at King Arthur's Camelot, who inspired the establishment of the Order of the Knights of the Round Table. Okay, we're just going to go with it. This is what we got in the list. So the next one's going to be Roger Bacon, okay, circa 1220 to 1292 AD in England. He was a philosopher, educational reformer, and experimental scientist. He was the forerunner of modern science, renowned for his exhaustive investigations into alchemy, optics, mathematics, and languages. Now, the next one is organizer behind the scenes for the secret societies in Germany in the late 14th and early 15th century. The creation of a possibly fictional character named Christian Rosenkraus was inspired by his efforts. Now, the next one they claim that he was reincarnated as is Christopher Columbus, circa 1451 to 1506 AD. He was believed to have been born in Genoa, Italy, and settled in Portugal. He landed in the Americas in 1492 during the first of 4 voyages to the New World, sponsored by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain. Now, the next one they claim that he could have been, or he was reincarnated, was Francis Bacon. Okay, circa 1561 to 1626 in England. All right. He was a philosopher, a statesman, an essayist, and literary master. He was author of the Shakespearean plays according to the Ascended Master teachings. He was the father of inductive science and herald of the scientific revolution. Now, according to the Ascended Master teachings, Francis Bacon faked his own death on Easter Sunday, April 9th, 1626, and even attended his own funeral in disguise. It is believed by the adherents of the Ascended Master teachings that he then traveled secretly to Transylvania to the Rákóczi mansion of the noble family of Hungary. Now finally, on May 1st, 1684, he is believed to have attained, by his knowledge of alchemy, his physical ascension, attaining immortality and eternal youth, the 6th level of initiation, at which time Francis Bacon adopted the name Saint Germain. I never knew he adopted that name, but I'll have to look into that. I didn't even realize that. But now, we're going to go ahead and do one point that's a skeptical view, okay? And the scholar K. Paul Johnson maintains that the masters that Madame Blavatsky wrote about and produced letters from were actually idealizations of people who were her mentors. Okay? That was a criticism on his part to her. Now, there's so much to unwrap on this, and I don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be, y'all. But, there's theories that, he actually had in possession of him the Philosopher's Stone. Now, if you don't know the Philosopher's Stone story, I'm probably going to do an episode on that so we can break that down at some other point. But the Philosopher's Stone, a quick rundown is it's supposed to give you basically immortality, youth, lifelong youth. So all these accounts, when they seen him, everybody claimed that he was roughly about the same age. There was a queen or princess, I can't remember which one, but I think she was a queen actually. She saw him years beforehand, and then when he was in another country, she happened to be there for some kind of get together, some kind of a fancy shindig of some sort, and she happened to see him there, and she literally pinpointed him as him being the same person, and he talked to her, and he actually had a discussion with her, and he told her, pinpointed every little detail as far as their last encounter. And she said, my God, she thought at first he was the person that she met before's son because he looked so much like him. He said, no, madam, I am him. I am he. And he described their encounter pretty much. And it literally just shocked her. So, when you got stuff like this guy's very knowledgeable. I mean, yeah, was he a charlatan? Was he a scam artist? Was he somebody just trying to make ends meet? Trying to buffalo rich people so he could get taken care of and you don't have to worry about starving on the street? Yeah, perhaps. I mean, that's a good possibility. But I'm going to be honest with you. If he's somebody just off the street, I don't see him being as well educated and informed in so many diverse subjects, so many different subjects. I don't see that happening. This man came from wealth somehow, some way, somewhere, in my opinion. And he was a very, very knowledgeable person. They always said that when he was there talking in like say at a dinner setting, he wouldn't eat. He would drink his tea. Now, there's another theory about his tea. You know, they're saying, well, was this tea perhaps like they had a theory about the Philosopher's Stone being like not necessarily a stone. There was a certain powder that you had to make that could turn into a stone if you let it harden, but you could use that powder and actually basically put it in your drink like an energy drink powder. Okay? And perhaps that's what kept him youthful. That's what kept him young, etc. But this, I mean, there's been different sightings throughout the years, and I just went down some of them with you. You know, some people claim they've seen him in the 2000s, as of up to recent days. You know what I mean? So, what's going on here? What is it? Is this some kind of is it a paranormal type of deal here? Is this a being, an otherworldly being? Is it an extraterrestrial? Is it a time traveler? Is this a shapeshifter of sorts? Or is it just a bunch of hooey? I mean, is it just a bunch of people amping themselves up and just going off on tangents, just, you know, trying to connect dots where they're not at? Who knows? I don't know. I can't really say. I mean, but I'm going to be honest with you. Like, as far as what my opinion goes, as far as what I've heard and what I've got to put together here, I would say I don't know. It hinges, for me, it hinges upon the queen that talked to him, you know, many years later, and saw that and she literally stated, she's like, you haven't aged a day. Literally, he never aged a day. And it was literally, it was a lot of years after. It was, I don't know, like 40 years after, 30 years, whatever the hell it was. It was a lot of years. But regardless, now that brings into play, was the queen at that time, was she senile? You know, was her faculties in question? You know, that's the only other thing that comes into play for me. But I would say if this woman saw him physically and she seemed to have her faculties, which from the accounts, it seems as though she did. So I would say in that case, if that is the fact, and she knew who she saw those years before, and he confirmed that he was who she thought he was, and for her to have the surprise reaction, I would say there may be a touch of something paranormal in this. I don't know, but that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But anyways, everybody, I'm glad that you tuned in again for the Trading Post, and me and Noodle are very appreciative of that. We love it that you guys come back for more. Okay, we want you guys to learn. We want you to have fun. This is what it's about. It's about us to have fun. For us to all come to a certain place where we're not judged, criticized on our thoughts. Everybody's free to their own opinion. Okay? Now, but if you guys want to, you can tune in to the next episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to be putting up there yet. I may be doing a cryptid one. I'm not sure. I got so many different subjects rolling around in my head. I can't keep up with it, you know. I am going to do one on the real life James Bond coming up. I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to try to do one on the real life Sherlock Holmes, and some government operations, experiments, things like that. But we're gonna do some comedy shorts. We're gonna keep you guys entertained, okay? But I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, y'all. Thank you, my Trading Post family. Live, laugh, and love, because tomorrow is not promised to us. So enjoy your lives. Until next one. Bye.